if it's coming from AI, it's not unique.
Mhm.
Anything that AI generates is not unique. It's recognizing patterns from its knowledge base of what's already out there. And in the world of challenger brands, this is kind of deadly because the challenger has to be sort of anti-status quo. They have to pivot. They have to convince people that there's a better way of doing things, that the big incumbents, you don't have to settle for what you have with them. There's a better way of doing it. If you're just using AI to produce content, your website content, your thought leadership, all you're really doing is saying what your competitors are saying. You're homogenizing your brand according to what your big competitors are saying. And that's just not going to get you where you need to go. You can't beat them at their own game.
Welcome back to the Challenger Edge podcast. I'm Scott, and today we're tackling AI visibility, the thing every CMO, CEO is talking about right now. Google says the fundamentals of SEO haven't changed. Shannon and I think that's misleading. And today we're going to be breaking down why. We get into organic traffic, why it's cratering, the framework Shannon's been working on for actually winning inside AI-generated answers, and why challenger brands have a real edge over big incumbents right now. Here's my conversation with Shannon. Let's get into it. Excellent. Let's jump into AI visibility and the wonderful world that is AI search and all things thereof. So we're talking today about AI visibility. We're about to get in the weeds here. Shannon, thanks for hopping on. We're excited to get in here together. But yeah, AI visibility is probably on the mind of every CMO, CEO. I mean, we talk to clients every day, and right, they're just like, hey, how do I rank? Like, what is this black box of AI visibility? Shannon, what are you hearing out there with AI visibility, just at the top of your head?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, it's top of mind for everybody, especially in the B2B world. We've already talked about, and it's been widely reported, how traffic from search, organic search traffic is declining on websites, and the dark funnel, and people are getting, it's the buyer journey is compressing, right? Because all of this stuff is happening right in the answer engines, right? People are doing their research, they're shortlisting, they're doing all this stuff right there using the AI tool before that user ever goes to the website. So the whole idea of like top of funnel, get people to the website, get them to convert, nurture them over their buying journey is, I'm not saying it's useless or it's going away, but it really is focusing a lot of that in the world of search, and in particular AI search. So, I mean, for B2B companies, I feel like it's the battleground of the next few years, is how do they win at AI search and foster all of that nurturing activity and that movement toward their brand happening within AI models.
Yeah. I feel like the frustration, and we'll probably do this on episode 4 or 5, is it's a black box too. It's like, not in terms of getting ranked, because we're going to get into that right now, but it's a black box in terms of clicks. We hear this term zero click marketing keep coming back up, right? They see the answer right there. It's like they leave, right? So people are really freaking out. But what we're here to focus on today is, what is it? How is the AI visibility landscape changing? And I think a really cool place to start is, what is Google saying, right? People are kind of all up in arms. You hear over the past 6 to 9 months, AEO, GEO, CEO, GGBO, you can think of every acronym in the book people are selling the snake oil of SEO these days. And, Google has been a little quiet, unfortunately, until recently, about what is the difference? Is SEO the same as AEO? Is, right? And people are all like, no, it's not. Yes, it is. Let me upcharge you to help you rank on answer engines. So, So the official line from Google is AEO, GEO. It's all comes from foundational SEO. We were looking at this early last week, but Google came out with this official guide to how to optimize your website for generative AI features, right? Gemini, and a lot of these are still the SEO stuff is still relevant for generative AI features, right? So, Shannon, I know you and I talked about this a bit offline, but what are the big takeaways that you feel like Google is really calling out in this announcement of how AI is changing?
Yeah, well, this has been kind of their talk track since ChatGPT and Gemini came out, and everybody was asking this question: is it still SEO? Is it AEO? Is it or is it just part of is AEO part of SEO? And there was a lot of chatter in forums and with the SEO community on this, and some differing perspectives. But Google came out pretty quickly after that and said, relax, the foundational principles are the same,
There's no
right?
fires. Yeah.
Yeah, keep kind of like, just keep doing what you're doing. And you can even see there on the document that you're sharing that subheading down there: apply foundational SEO best practices. That when readers read that type of a headline, when they scan this kind of stuff, that's the conclusion that they make, is like, okay, phew, I can just kind of keep doing what I'm doing, and
Yeah.
it's all just going to work out in the wash. And the problem that I have with that is it just feels like an old narrative now. I mean, when when answer engines came out, they, in the first year or so, I remember looking at some statistics that said that they were only represented like 2% of the search queries. They were still largely going through Google, and we're like, okay, well, that's probably gonna increase, but it was lower than everybody expected. Well,
Yep.
now the data that I'm seeing coming out is dramatically different. More like 50% of searches are originating in the AI search boxes. So I think it needs an update, because they're foundational. I mean, when I see that word apply foundational SEO, foundationally, they're very different.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Exactly.
when traditional search is about ranking a piece of content, right? Google sees the query, looks at some keywords, understands some bit of semantic, meaning or understanding of those keywords, and then it tries to connect that query with the most authoritative pieces of content.
Yeah.
And then you were on your own to go and read, click on probably, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 different things to see if it answered your question, right? And AI search works completely differently. Completely different. So
Totally.
AI search is actually answering the question for you. It's interpreting the intent of that query. The query is much longer now, of course, gives much more contextual detail, so that the AI can go out there and actually synthesize an answer based on its default knowledge, its collective knowledge base. So your answers just gets being spoon fed to you. So foundationally, that's the problem that I have with some of the terms. I don't doubt that there are SEO principles that still apply. I think probably a lot of them do.
Yeah.
But just the way it comes across when you hear foundational SEO best practices, I think, is a little misleading.
It is, definitely. And I want to dig into the numbers you shared there. We heard 12 months ago, 3% where people were using it, now 50%. So let's dive in there. But before we do, I actually laughed at this call out from Google's, is like, I'm on LinkedIn probably too much, but they're like, listen, if you're selling these services, please refer to our guidance on evaluating, third-party SEO advice. Every guru and their mom is, selling you the snake oil of AEO and GEO. So, I love that Google's out here diminishing the emergence of, AI is changing the landscape, but also stop misleading people. This is for all of our agency partners listening out there. Like, let's be, follow the business by the golden rule here, right? So, but yeah, let's talk about the metrics a bit more. So when we get into what is the data saying? Like, what are you hearing more largely, there's a lot of numbers out there. Did you, what are you saying?
Yeah, I mean, I devour a lot of this content, so I'm seeing it from multiple sources. Maybe we can provide some citations afterwards in the comments or something. But um, what I'm seeing is that the number's more around 50% now of people starting their research with an AI chatbot
Wow.
versus with Google.
Hmm.
So significant
That's insane.
increase.
Yeah.
Um, another interesting one is, with traditional search, one of the common types of content that you would see produced in order to rank were these roundups, or kind of like how to and what is posts, the 5 top this or that, those listicles, right? There was all these kind of content devices that content marketers and SEOs would use, and they
Mhm.
worked in traditional search, and they absolutely don't work with AI search,
No.
because it's purely commodity content,
Yeah.
right? It's not really offering anything new. And so the stat that I saw was, I think, less than 8% of that type of commodity content
Hmm.
was generating any meaningful traffic
Wow.
via AI search.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, there's another pivot point, right? In terms of no, don't just keep doing what you're doing. We need to think differently. And particularly what we're going to be talking about today, I think, is really on the content side of things.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of the traditional SEO, like, you know, uh, backlinks, I think, still have some value. Domain authority probably still has some value. I just think, relatively speaking, it's shifting to the quality of the content, the uniqueness of the content, some of the things that we're going to be talking about.
Doubling back on what you're saying is, we talked about the 0-click, marketing. I'm seeing around 18% of searches and these long queries, as you were indicating or leading towards, is they're ending without any types of clicks, right? They just see the answer and they go off. Google's both feed in on the AI mode, right? It's the default reply now when people are doing it. I find myself clicking out of it because I sometimes I want to see the normal results, but that's and so we're seeing that that number could get closer to 90% of people having 0-click searches because the answer's right there, right? So I'm really interested to
Yeah.
see how this is going to change Google's ad model, right? It's all about money for them at the end of the day, right?
Well,
So
there's actually, you're right, but there's actually a silver lining here.
yeah.
So yeah, those we're seeing a decline in that organic traffic, but
Hmm.
the traffic that does come from AI search is converting at a much higher rate.
Yes.
And that's because by the time they reach your site, they have a lot more context. They know a lot more about your brand, and they're there for a reason other than they're just clicking items in a list of search results.
Yeah. And this is why you shouldn't gate your content, and you should put your pricing on your website, people. We'll argue for that another day. But yeah, so Shannon, I want to get into this approach to how we curate content. Little lead in there. We have traditionally followed the EATS model approach, and many people who are in marketing or in the SEO world know about this. It's EATS: expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. Now, a handful of years ago, there was a second E added to that: experience, EEAT. And this has been a traditional way of how we've thought about curating content when it comes to ranking organically on Google search, right? And it seems like there's a new framework evolving. I know you've been working on something more recently, Shannon, and I want to dig in. I want to spend a lot of time on this during our conversation today. So talk to me about how you're seeing this EATS model being kind of reframed, reconfigured, if you will.
Yeah, well, for those who may not be familiar with it, the EAT framework was originally introduced, I want to say in 2014. It became popular in 2018.
Yeah.
And I also want to say, don't hold me to this, but I think it was part of a helpful content update. So Google was trying to say, how do we create a way to evaluate contents, and we want it to be helpful to people.
Yeah.
And so this would be a way that you can optimize your content to, for search engine optimization. And it started out with expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. So, I mean, those are, I think you can just kind of get the context out of those words. The part that made me start to really think about whether the EAT framework was still relevant is in the authoritativeness area, because authoritativeness, I think there's probably a couple ways to think of that SEO's thought of it. One is topical authority, and then the other was domain authority.
Yeah.
And I just, so you've got two things there. Topical authority was like, hey, how comprehensive is this piece of content? And this is where, you would have a search term that you were trying to rank on. You would look at what was ranking currently on that term. And then the way to succeed, to outrank what was currently up there, was to be more comprehensive, more words, more related keywords and subtopics. We had content clusters and pillar content, and all of this came out of that idea.
Yeah.
And for many years we were saying, Google rewards long form content. The more, the better.
Yeah.
And that just seems kind of off to me right now, because, when you think about people, what were people ever searching for anything more than just an answer to a question, right? I don't want to become an expert on the topic. I just want an answer to my question.
Yeah.
But this is where the proxies sort of, the model sort of broke down, and it started not being helpful, even though it was trying to be helpful.
Yeah.
And answer engines just give you that answer that you want.
Yeah.
Right? They synthesize it together. So we never really wanted that level of depth, I don't think, in most cases. Yeah. And the second one was the domain authority, which is to say, Google's going to say, I'm going to prioritize content from a domain that I see a lot of inbound and outbound traffic, a lot of engagement, high volume, right? Yeah. That's going to tell me that this is a publisher of a higher, has more authority. And so I'm going to prioritize what they say more than what unknowns say. And as I started seeing the type of stuff that AI was producing, or that the AI search was generating, it's like, it's just different. It was more about the contextual connection, the relevance of that answer to the specific unique situation, more than just what happened to be on a website that was really big and well known.
Yeah.
So again, it's not that those things are no longer important, but I just think they're less important. They were proxies to get at something we were trying to get at, which was, is this content really helpful? And they weren't the best proxies. And now we don't need the proxies. We can actually just have AI identify if the content aligns with the situation or the context of my search. So
exactly. Yeah.
And one other thing to point out here that I think is interesting, if anybody is still sort of doubting the difference, whether the foundational principles apply, if you do a search for something and you look in the traditional results and in the AI results, the citations and the AI results, they're not very much the same. I think this is another statistic that I saw somewhere. I want to say it was like 12. There was only 12% overlap. Right. So what does that tell you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like Google's model is changing so quickly, because people think they're smarter than Google search too, right? They, as soon as Perplexity and Gemini and, even Claude came out, they were like, oh, well, I can just create a bunch of AI content, right? And then I'm going to show up first, right? So I think the EATS approach, I mean, we experienced it with the EATS model as well, as like people aren't just duplicating hundreds of articles and, but, there has to be that unique perspective. There has like, we're going to get into this, but, AI is not, it's repurposing things. It's not creating a unique perspective. It's just, sometimes it's AI slop. And as the models get better, it sounds less and less like AI, but Google's pretty smart. They know when you just slap something together on Claude or on Gemini or something, right? So yeah, I'm excited to dig into that here on our new approach. So CURATE, Shannon, is this the new acronym? I want to unpack that. So let's just start at the top. What is context on that first C of CURATE, and why does that feel more important now than ever?
Yeah, well, maybe first just to segue us into this CURATE model. So this is a model that we're starting to use at Rocketship to go to the next step beyond EAT framework to just to have better content, better success in the AI search results. And so this is something that I came up with and that we've started to use. It's certainly not something that is of widespread use, or that the industry is changing, although I offer it to anyone who would find it helpful. But yeah, CURATE the stands for context, uniqueness, relevance, alignment, trust, and experience. So you can see there that trust and experience are still present. And there's still an A, but instead of authoritativeness, it's alignment. We'll talk about all these. And then context, uniqueness, and relevance, I think all speak to a little bit different content approach. So I would say this model is less on the technical, traditional SEO side of things. It's really more focused on the type of content. It's like a model for how we create content in this new world.
Got it. Yeah.
So the first one, the C, is context. And as I was saying earlier, traditional search was never really very good at context. Keywords, the keywords that we optimize for, even when we do keyword research, they're typically short. And this goes back even decades to the beginnings of search. We had these sort of short keywords that we would try, like short tail, or head terms. Sometimes we would call them HVAC companies, time and expense software, and then they started to increase a little bit with some contextual factors like near me or for my industry or things like this. But there was sort of a practical point at which the long tail was just too long. You couldn't track it. There wasn't enough search volume on it. And furthermore, if you tried to pre-AI, if you tried to type in a really long, like a paragraph or a couple paragraphs like we do now with AI search, if you did something like that in a traditional search engine, you would get totally diffused random results with all kinds of variants. It wouldn't know what to pick up. Right?
Yeah.
In AI search, that's the opposite. The more context you give, the better, the more relevant of an answer you're going to get. So those typical keywords and the whole traditional way of doing keyword research doesn't really reveal the situation very well, or the intent. And so we need to be thinking more in terms of those longer contextual prompts and the meaning, the intent behind them, because we'll never be able to match the words of those long prompts.
Yeah.
But we can identify situations and problems and obstacles, different use cases, things like that people may be searching for when they're looking for a solution. and we can create content around those things.
Awesome.
So that's kind of the heart of the context piece. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. And I keep thinking back to our, like, who's listening in right now. And, you know, there's challengers out there. So when we think of the context, why is this important for challengers, right? You know, like when we're trying to show up and search more, can you talk to me about, you know, where challengers are at versus maybe bigger incumbents?
Yeah. Well, I think it's pretty true to say that challengers, broadly speaking, can really speak into these more unique situations better
Yeah.
than the big brands can.
Yeah.
It's not always true. Obviously, one of the challenges of the challenger brand is that the big incumbents are much better resourced. And so sometimes, but I think there are just some inherent things with the big incumbent, you know, that if they speak too much of a niche, they're going to alienate the majority of their market. And it just is too cumbersome, right? When you're at that market leader position. Whereas the role of the challenger is really to identify those situations where segments or subsegments of the market are underserved by the big incumbent. They're just, you know, they're being thrown into a machine, and that's meant to be broad. I mean, think about like like the big CRMs, you know, like Salesforce or HubSpot, which serve all the different types of industries. They're made to be customizable and so forth. And so they can focus on user experience and that kind of thing. Good. But then compare that to the niche CRMs that are industry specific, where they have predefined, you know, workflows and different things that everybody in that industry is going to want and use. They don't have to build it from scratch. And so they can speak into a niche that in a way that like Salesforce really can't. Or not in the same way with the level of credibility. So this is kind of this is a natural place for the challenger to be. But it still does take work, right? Because you may have multiple niches and you have to understand those buyers and their journeys and that kind of thing. But you know, that whole idea of moving from keywords to prompts, you know, so you got to think problems, constraints, desired outcomes, things like this. And you know, you can use your existing keyword data as a starting point, and even then go to AI. This is a great use of AI, is to have AI expand on those keywords and identify situations based on, you know, you can point it to forums or different sources, you know, where it can start to piece that together. You know, communities like Reddit and different forums and that kind of thing, you can mine that data, and AI can do a good job of mining that data. Voice of the customer is something that I'm hearing a lot about lately. It's a term that's been around for a long time, but it used to be very tedious. Well, now, you know, we can record conversations, we get the transcripts, and we can feed all that into AI and have it cluster and come up with the actual things that your customers are concerned about and calling support about. And that can really drive your content strategy.
Love it. Love it. So yeah, I mean, there's all this contextual content, these sources. I think that was super thorough. I mean, we often think just about keyword data, right, when it comes to rankings. So, but yeah, I mean, you see it now. People Google and they just put Reddit at the end of it because they think they're going to get a more thoughtful reply from a Reddit person than whatever else Google's going to be giving to it, you know. So people are already looking for more trustworthy answers in the AI responses, right? Like, and somehow Reddit has become this powerhouse in the last 5 years of unique, authoritative answers, right? You know, we're hearing about it more and more in the B2B space. More of our clients, more of our, people in our agency space are looking to Reddit to become a first place where people are looking up, hey, have you heard of this AI tool? Have you heard of this software, right? What all the subreddits for a specific brand, or so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
yeah, looking at your
And
customers, communities.
LinkedIn
Yes.
also, both
Uh-huh.
Reddit and LinkedIn and other similar sources are being cited in AI answers a
Yeah.
lot more heavily than they were in traditional search. And so again, I think the broader story here is that the website itself and the content that you publish on your website, while still important, is now just one piece of, you have to look really across the whole ecosystem, all
Yeah.
your social profiles and these forums and different sites, and your LinkedIn and your company LinkedIn, your thought leaders,
Yeah.
individual, all of this really folds together, and AI is able to search it and pull it together in a way that it's decentralized is
Yeah.
really the thing to say about that.
That's great. Context, wonderful. Let's talk about uniqueness. Why is this where most B2B content fails?
Well, I mean, gosh, where to even start with that? I mean, the uniqueness is really alluding to to content that is not commodity content,
Mm-hmm.
and that is human, and
Yeah.
those are two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
So it's actually why Google introduced the second E in the EAT framework. So
Okay. Yeah.
that happened, I don't know, 2022-ish, I think, right after ChatGPT came out. So it
Yeah.
was in part in response to a lot of the AI generated content,
Yeah.
and Google trying to figure out, okay, how are we gonna rank this content? I remember even back during that time, it was like Google's initially said AI content's bad.
Yeah.
We're not gonna give that ranking. And then they said, well, actually, um, it's not bad in and of itself. It just has to be helpful. So even if it's AI generated or partially AI generated, it has to follow our guidelines of being helpful content.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but as all of this has advanced, one of the interesting things that has happened is you're looking at the content that AI produces, and we can discern it. People are saying that they can tell when something is AI content. There's all the AI tells. I kind of assumed when this happened that it would just get better, right? That just, maybe in a year or two, it's just, we're not even going to be able to tell. It's just advancing so fast, and that actually isn't what's happening.
Not at all. Not at all.
I gosh, if I see another contrast statement in a LinkedIn article or post, or it's like, it makes me want to vomit every time I see those. It's not this, it's that.
Yeah.
Um, so again, maybe these things will get get uh, get optimized out, but
Yeah.
people can they notice it, they don't like it, they want authenticity. And so this is where the EAT framework was trying to do that, but I think a better way to say it is uniqueness,
Mm-hmm.
right? And in order for it to be unique, it really has to be human,
Yeah.
right? Because if it's coming from AI as the source, it's not unique.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that AI generates is not unique. It's recognizing patterns from its knowledge base of what's already out there. And in the world of, we've talked about this before with challenger brands, this is kind of deadly, because the challenger has to be sort of anti-status quo. They have to pivot. They have to convince people that there's a better way of doing things, that the big incumbents, you don't have to settle for what you have with them. We solve these there's a better way of doing it. And if you're just using AI to produce content, your website content, your thought leadership, whatever, all you're really doing is saying what your competitors are saying. You're homogenizing your brand, according to what your big competitors are saying. And that's just not going to get you where you need to go, right?
Nope.
You can't beat them at their own game.
Tying off uniqueness, what are you seeing with custom GPTs or agentic solutions? Can they be trained to be that unique voice that your brand is representing?
Yeah, great question. This is an area that we're pretty keen on. I mean, we're trying to explore this area and help our clients create tools that provide sort of a brand governance role.
Yeah.
So this ties into like brand fragmentation, which we see a lot of, where agents or a lot of B2B brands are using a lot of different service providers, niche agencies, plus some internal teams, sales and marketing, and they're all doing different things and using different tools.
Yeah.
And so what's hitting the market is either AI homogenization, or it's homogenized raw, underlying content with no brand consistency, because it's all being created in a different way. So yeah, we've had some success there in creating agentic solutions. There's a couple keys to making it work well, and it's not perfect yet.
Yeah.
I'll say first, like what most companies are doing is they're uploading brand guide documentation into a project, right? Like a Claude project, and maybe some other things, instructions and so forth.
Yeah.
And it's just not enough. I don't know if you've experienced, I know I experience all the time, where I'm constantly having to remind Claude to pay attention to a brand guideline or to a certain voice or style. It forgets, the whole memory management thing is it's an obstacle that people are trying to figure out in different ways.
Yeah.
The other thing is that I think the raw material that we give the GPTs is really where it's at. It's kind of garbage in, garbage out, right? If you can give it a lot of good detail and exemplar content, this is what it should look, this is what good looks like.
Yep.
And you can give it a good, healthy set of that material, then it's going to do better. But it's still, you have to understand that the LLMs, what they are in their DNA is pattern recognition systems. So you have to work really hard, a lot harder than most brands realize, in order to really get it to deviate and adopt, a brand voice over that industry homogenized content. So the best thing I can say there is it's agentic solutions work better, where you have multiple agents trained on very individual tasks.
Yeah.
Right. When you try to just load up an instruction or a project with all of this content that it has to read every time in order to produce a piece of content, it tends to be overwhelming, and it just doesn't remember most of it.
Yeah, totally. Beautiful. So we got through uniqueness, relevance, and alignment. So talk to me about those two and how do they connect? Let's dig in there.
Sure. Relevance is similar to context. I would say context is kind of the user's side of the equation. What's their situation. Relevance is how your solution helps them, and it's making that connection, that overlap between their needs and your competitive advantages or your solution. One of the phrases I like to use here to unpack relevance is to give the right message to the right customer at the right time. So the timing aspect is really important when it comes to relevance, right? As is their context, right? What industry are they in? What are they trying to solve? What's the unique problem? But as a buyer moves through the buying journey, their needs change. And furthermore, you might be trying to sell to one company, but you've got multiple stakeholders within that company, influencers, right? This is common. This is typical in B2B marketing. We all know this. And so the challenge there is getting the right message to the right stakeholder, right? You know, a CFO who's going to approve the deal is going to be really interested in the ROI and the financial justifications and rationales. Somebody else, you know, is interested in the features, or somebody else is. I mean, it's like everybody's different. So knowing each of those personas and how and where they engage in the buying process as they move from top to middle to bottom of funnel is really essential in relevance. And so the exercise there is to really map that out. This is what I was getting at about training the GPTs. If you know, training them at a much greater level of depth, if you're going to use, you know, if you're going to use an AI engine to generate content or help you with you know, a web page or a landing page copy or an ad copy or something like that, you want to be able to tell it, you know, who am I speaking to, which persona, and where are they at in their buying journey, and it should be able to just map to, okay, this is what's important to this user at this point in their journey, and know what the next step is, what the call to action is, what their mindset is, what's the key takeaway that you're trying to you know, impart on them, and so forth. And so when it comes to AI search, it's the same thing happens as we talked about before. It all happens within the search panel before they even get to our website. So we want to be able to, you know, to provide the same contextual relevance.
How does alignment across touch points register with AI and the AI models?
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting, almost seems like contradictory, because when we say we say relevance, so we're giving a unique message to each customer at a unique time. And then I'm saying with alignment, it's like there's some consistency there. Well, aren't those opposing one another? And when I'm speaking of alignment, I'm really talking about alignment with the brand, brand positioning, the brand identity. Because that's also what's going to help the language models make a connection between, you know, these highly contextual searches, right? They're you know, if you really stand for something, we talk with challengers about the lighthouse identity, so which acts like a beacon to attract the right customers to you, and you know, maybe repel or just, you know, we're not worried about those that are not a great fit. That's the part of the challenger strategy. So having that lighthouse identity and brand positioning and weaving that in through all of these very unique use cases and conversations and touch points that we're having is a way to unify all of this and really inform the AI search when and where we're the most appropriate recommendation.
Got it. So does AI is picking up on this brand consistency, right? Like it sounds like they're not just evaluating one page, they're looking across the whole buyer journey, right? And as they get more advanced, they're really picking up on what person you're trying to speak to based on a query, right? And what messages you're putting out there. But yeah, I mean, the complexities that come with an AI search it's amazing how they're able to distill it into an answer, right? And I'd be very interested in, like, especially when we talk about zero-click marketing, is like, what is Google getting back that says, hey, we think this was the right answer, besides just saying, hey, did you like this answer? You know? But yeah, that's sorry.
Yeah, well, and the nuance is that it's being decentralized. So where on your website you had the opportunity to weave that brand message
Yeah.
throughout your whole experience and the journey and the different pages and all the everything that you have. Now you have to be more thoughtful, I think, because we have to show up across more touch points, across more channels on the internet. And the AI search sees that more holistically. It connects all of that together.
Yeah.
And so if it can see that common thread across all of those many touch points and channels, then I think you're putting yourself in the best position.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about this briefly, but it seems like there's a growing level of mistrust and or even like maybe too much trust in AI response sometimes. You know, you see it on all the models. It's like AI can make mistakes. Please double check, right? But how does trust? What's going on with trust? How does that hold up in an AI first world?
Well, I mean, I think what's interesting is how the actual use of AI itself is becoming a trust signal and a credibility or I would even say like a judgment signal. You know, when like again we're getting inundated with data here about how people just they're losing trust in brands when they see AI generated content.
Yeah.
And you know, I saw a study recently about preference of human generated content to AI content across a whole bunch of categories. I mean, it's just it's really astounding. I think it's like something like 8-1, you know, preference toward human generated content across all these different categories.
Yeah.
And you're even seeing a brand positioning start to emerge of we're anti-AI. Like that's becoming legitimate brand positioning that many brands are adopting.
Yeah.
I mean, all of this is probably going to ebb and flow and we'll find some equilibrium, but there's just, we have to be aware of how the use of AI affects trust. I was noticing myself, I had a couple situations just over the last month or two. One was we were doing we were hiring, and I was looking at candidates that were you know, that I was talking to and looking at their LinkedIn feeds and this kind of thing. And another one was for like a partner, someone that I was talking to for a potential partnership. In each case, I found, you know, like AI slop.
Yeah.
You know, on their LinkedIn feed, in some of the things that they were publishing. Like one of the guys I was talking to had a tool, and it was just so transparently AI generated, and I literally felt, I perceived, I could like I could feel internally, I could feel my trust just start to diminish when I saw those things.
Yeah.
And so, and you know, maybe a lot of thought and work went into each of those. The tool that the one guy created and the blog post that the other guy created, maybe it was really their original ideas, but you know, perception is reality. We've heard this, right? Like, and if I see obvious AI tells in what is being produced by an individual or a brand, then I don't know what to trust. I don't know how authentic it is. I don't know how much effort was put, how authentic it is, right? You might have had AI just throw something out, or you might have done a lot of work, but it doesn't matter because it's perception.
It is.
So this is, you know, I mean, this is just new territory that we're in. Yeah, the other thing I think about here a little bit is I remember back when I was getting my degree, I was maybe organizational development or psychology or organizational design or something like that. And we talked about influence in organizations. Maybe it was a leadership course. And I remember the distinction between, you know, position power and expertise power,
Mm.
right? Position power is like, you've got the power to fire, and so I'm just do it because I told you so. But expert power is earned, right? It's built on a developed respect
Yeah.
that you earn, and judgment, right? Judgment and expertise were sort of linked together.
Yeah.
In this world, I think it's like expertise and judgment now have been decoupled by AI, because knowledge is such a commodity. AI can, anybody can use the tools and throw knowledge up, but judgment is a whole different thing,
Yeah.
right? It takes experience, lived experience, and actual knowledge, not AI knowledge, to actually have judgment.
Yeah.
And so, I think as consumers, we interpret the things that people do and if they're using AI in a certain way and it's lazy and it's slop,
Yeah.
that's not very good judgment.
No. I mean, it seems like it's really dividing people. I mean, you see people, softwares saying we're the AI empowered or AI infused company, and it's a really delicate balance. I mean, I remember Duolingo about 6 months ago. They announced that they were using AI in either to supplement or replace like contractors, and it was a very public, like, Duolingo is one of the examples of like how this is how you do social media really well, and it was like a bomb to their brand equity. It was as a marketer, it was kind of astonishing. People, like, there was waves of unfollowings and people saying, I'm never using Duolingo again, and meanwhile they had been blowing up on TikTok and, Instagram. But the trust just went down like an avalanche after they people heard that AI was going to be taking contractor jobs, and they were going to be using like AI content to be doing like lesson making and stuff like that. So yeah, it's crazy how quickly trust can erode when AI is misused in the creation of or supplementation of, what people expect there to be humans in, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how it evolves across more brands. But
Yeah.
but yeah, trust.
I mean, yeah, it's I think we've been hearing that trust in brands has been eroding, and people, the initial wave of all of this was to say, well, we don't really know with brands where that content is coming from, and
Yeah.
we just feel like we're marketed to, and so then we started to recognize that people started to gravitate towards humans, right? Individuals.
Yeah.
And so we talk a lot about this thought leadership.
Yep.
And it is better coming from the individual subject matter experts in a company with authenticity.
Yep.
My concern with the examples that I cited is that these both came from individuals. And so it's not just about brands. It's now like individuals can harm this as well by using AI in the wrong way. So it's just we're still in learning. We're getting hit with a fire hose of all of this technology, and we're learning as we go, and
Yeah.
and evolving as we go. And
Yeah.
like when we first saw AI generated content, it looked great, and then we started noticing M dashes, and then it was like, okay, M dash, we'll get rid of those, and then we started seeing the contrast statements, and so I think certain, like, you don't know what you don't know, and if you're not in this stuff every day, you don't see the patterns. And those of us who are doing it more frequently, we recognize. I have this gag reflex when I see those contrast statements, and some folks who are just getting started, and God bless you for jumping in the game and starting to post and try to be a thought leader. But the broad market is starting to see these things more and more.
Yeah.
And so we just have to be aware.
Well, the irony of it is people who have been using AI long enough are trying to now make mistakes and make it look more simple.
I know.
Because they don't want AI. They're like, oh,
mistakes. I know. I've seen this. That's an eye roller as well.
I know. Yeah. So CURATE, I think we're on the last one, experience. Obviously, it still has experience within original EATS model, but what's the actual prescription for experience? Like what do we need to do to tie off that acronym?
Yeah. Well, like this is all the stuff we've been talking about. Again, all of these are interconnected. LLMs, we know, are really good at synthesizing existing knowledge.
Yeah.
Right. But they can't manufacture genuine experience. That's the thing they can't do. And so this, again, is going to sound like overlap with uniqueness and some of the other things. But, it's not just to publish more per se, although I think in order to address those contextual and relevance situations, right, the different personas and different stages of the buying journey, yeah, we're going to have to speak to much more nuanced things than we did before. So that to me does say we probably need to produce more content, but it needs to be based on experience and original thought. I don't know if we said this before, but there's somebody did a study recently about about citations and what types of content gets cited. We talked about those roundup posts and the how-tos and those sort of things. And what they found, they actually tested this out and found that content that was an answer that could be provided from their default knowledge base, that sort of something that they already knew.
Yeah.
They would just, the LLMs will just answer it, and they have no reason to provide a citation.
Yeah.
Right. So again, this is where you get into that unique content, and by extension of that, finding a way to produce content from lived experience.
Yeah.
So just let me just shoot some examples. Just, I think will make this more clear. So think about things like proprietary frameworks, original research, customer stories, lessons learned, maybe even something like failed experiments.
Okay.
Or contrary points of view, things that are, that really kind of go against the status quo, like we talked about before, which is what the LLMs are filled with. Unique methodologies. Look what we're doing right here. CURATE is something that we came up with here. It's unique. It's not anywhere else on the internet. And so, when somebody searches for this topic, maybe a new model or a better model for optimizing, maybe, right, this is the kind of thing that could get a citation. And firsthand observations, and we talked about voice of the customer before. There's so many sources. You just have to sort of think about and get out of those ruts of routine that we've been stuck in with traditional AI search, or with traditional search, and think about how to create more unique content.
So to really land the plane here, Shannon, with the challenger brands being at the essence of what we're tackling here, why is this AI visibility thing going on? Why is it a real opportunity and not a threat to challenger brands?
Yeah, great question. I think we started to chat about this a little earlier in the conversation, but it really just has to do with the fact that incumbents are typically slower to move, right? And challengers can be much more nimble. And also, it's really the job of the challenger brand to get into those niches and those segments that are underserved by the big incumbent. That's really what AI search is rewarding more. So to the extent in your category that your big incumbents are not leaning in, not speaking more directly to those situations, those highly contextualized situations with relevancy, I think challenger brands have an opportunity there. You have to pick and choose. You have to start, bite off what you can chew, but then get in there, get into the weeds a little bit with your content. Start doing these things, really creating human first content that is that really ties into a specific context, and also the timing. Don't forget that relevance timing, right? Top,
Yeah.
middle, bottom of funnel. Define those if you haven't already. And then really think about the consistency of your message across not just, your website and the blog content, but how, all these different touch points
Yeah.
that you're showing up, right? The Reddits, the LinkedIn, and just, it's just something that you're going to have to get started doing,
Yeah.
and then watch and wait for it to pay off in the AI search.
Yeah. Well, Shannon, I for one appreciate the depth that we were able to go into today. I know for a lot of people, AI visibility creates anxiety in how their business is going to exist in this new space. So we hope this was valuable for you guys. We hope you enjoyed this conversation on AI visibility. We're going to continue to talk about this as it evolves. But yeah, catch us on our next episode, and we appreciate the listen. Thanks for catching this episode of the Challenger Edge podcast, where we help challenger brands like you navigate the crazy world of marketing. Like, share, and comment, or tag a fellow marketer below and let us know what we should talk about in our next episode. And we'll see you next time on the Challenger Edge podcast.